Hi, welcome to CGTN Live. I'm Sim and
my name is Liu Yang. Hi, CGTN viewers. How are you?
Hi, and we are here covering the two sessions at the moment in Beijing. And today there's a very interesting press conference on education that will be taking place just behind us. So we're going to give you a little preview of what we can expect.
We have
over the
10
next
minutes.
Yeah.
Until this gets started. So
what for you are the big issues that we can expect at the press conference?
Well, I think in the past 5 years, China has made its tremendous progress in education. And for example, about 68 million students received about $29 billion in financial aid last year. That was a huge figure.
A huge figure.
And also, many of the students, they got a chance come to the city and enjoy the key universities and through the special programs. And so now they have the chance to have the equal education opportunities with the students, with the children in the city, right?
Because that's a very interesting thing. The title of this press conference, I believe, is making sure that there is a fair and high-quality education for everybody.
Right.
And it's true, there's still a lot of remote areas, rural areas, where kids don't get to go to school or go to schools that are not as don't provide them with the kind of education that other kids get in cities, right? And that's something that you want to address and hopefully ask a question in this press conference, right?
Well, absolutely. I think indeed it's about the quality of education, right? And I think no matter where you are, you need to have the quality of education. No matter you're in a rural area, you're in a county, in the city, in Beijing, right? And many of the children, and I think that's one of the issues China wants to solve by 2020 is let have more children, all of the children have the opportunity to have their education by 2020, have the access to education.
And it's true, it's looking at the recent reports that have come out over the last 2 weeks, it's making sure that all children have access to primary education, secondary education, also providing financial aid, like you just said, for kids who don't have the money to go to school, making sure that school education is compulsory and everywhere. And there are so many places that you need to reach out to. Obviously in the cities there are schools everywhere, but in the countryside I guess it's a lot harder to provide those kinds of services.
So like you just mentioned, I think in the past 5 years China has made the progress tremendously, and in the rural schools, conditions in rural schools have been improved. I mean, the compulsory educations have been improved, and many of these students have access to compulsory education, to higher education, and also about 38 million students have the access to nutrition plan. I think that's a big deal, right? That's a big deal, especially for students living in the rural area. I think for the rural area, I also really want to mention about the left behind children. China has about 9 million left behind children, and many of the students, their parents are not with them for 1 or 2 years, and the longer probably 5 years, and they just can't remember what their parents look like. I think that's such a horrible, such a heartbreaking story for many of the kids age under 16 years old, and they need love from their parents, and they need, both psychologically and both physically, right? Yeah.
And that's the interesting thing. I think for some of us who come maybe from Europe or North America, when we think education reform, we think maybe better teachers or better schools and that kind of thing, but we don't think of, some of the problems here are just very basic. I mean, obviously China also wants to build world-class universities and have sort of that kind of level of education also to attract people to come and study here. But there's also the just very basic, just having a school in certain villages, having the teachers to teach kids, and like you said, also like taking care of these left behind children, some of which you have met.
And for many children, in a extreme poverty-stricken area, I think, for example, in Sichuan, in Yunnan, in Gansu provinces, and that's all the places. That's not only place, poverty-stricken in China, but as last time we talked about, this year China wants to raise about 10 million people out of poverty. I think these children actually included in the figure, right?
And that's sorry.
I'm sorry. They're the next generation of China. and it's a big deal to help them through education.
And yeah, exactly. It's education in this case is not just being able to get into a great university, it's helping people out of poverty. It's linked to so many other issues that China is trying to deal with, so many other reforms that it's looking at taking care of. And one thing I thought was quite interesting also is even not just developing world-class universities, but also developing universities in Western regions where a lot of people go to the cities, go to the east, to the coastal regions to study, and that also means people leave certain regions behind, and that they're less developed. And part of this whole regional development is also having universities in those areas so that people stay there, or maybe other people come there, and that will also sort of help regional development. So it's linked to so many different things, like you said, poverty alleviation, regional development, all those things. And I think it's very interesting to see how all of those things will develop.
Well, as we just mentioned, one of the examples I, experienced, I for about like 5 years I based in Sichuan province, and I've met many of the children, many of the parents, and they said, I really want to take my children with me, migrant to the coastal cities in like Guangzhou or Shanghai or Zhejiang provinces. Many of the factories there, they need people migrant from southwest China, like Yunnan or Sichuan province. But they said, we can't afford to, give them best education there, so I had to leave my children in my hometown, for example, in a rural area or maybe in the counties. And for these children left behind, the children, they really need care. When they were such a young age, right? And many of the children live with their grandparents,
right? Yeah.
And their grandparents probably around like 70 years old, and many of them can't even take care of themselves. So one village I visited like back to 2 years ago, and this brother and sister, and just in front of me, and I asked them, so could you please call your mother and ask her whether or not she will come back this Spring Festival holiday. The Spring Festival is such a big holiday.
Yeah, of course.
In China, it lasts for like 15 days. So, and they phoned her mother, and her mother said, no, I couldn't get a train ticket. It was, the time is limited. I only have like a 3 days break or something like that. So, and these children were so disappointed, and I can see their tears just running in their eyes, but they controlled themselves.
Right.
Because everything they had to help themselves. They had to to do by themselves, go to school and cook lunch, and to deal with lots of things that they're not their age is not supposed to deal with.
Exactly.
Right? I think that's a big deal, and for them to face the future. What about in the next 5 years? If they don't have a good mark in their education, they can't get into the high school, or maybe can't get into college. What's their future hold?
Yeah.
I don't know.
And like you just said, children should also be allowed to be children, and that's another thing that they've been saying.
Yeah, you're right.
So in the countryside, they have to, cook dinner for their grandparents, maybe do some work maybe in the fields, I don't know. Even in the cities, there's also, it seems like a smaller problem, but it's also, we always hear about tiger moms and Chinese parents being very, very strict on their parents, on their children. And it's also something that's come up a lot in China lately is people being worried that children are too stressed already at a young age and have to do tuition, extra tuition, take math classes, foreign languages, all of those things, even when they're 7, 8 years old, and don't actually get to enjoy being children.
And piano class.
And their parents really push them to be the best, because that way you get into the best university and so on.
Get best education. That means you widen your views, you have more opportunities, and have better salaries, and have better family in the future.
But at the same time, you have to be
like a chain reaction.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
But you have to also allow them to be kids sometimes, and also just play outside, right?
Exactly. Exactly. Just be themselves. When they were like 5 or 6 years old, you can't treat them like they are 16 years old, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's a harsh situation for many of the left behind children, and for many people, many children living in the rural area. Remember that that boy has a frozen hair.
Yeah.
And he lives in Yunnan province, and his family was not that poor, but he had to walk like an hour
Right.
to school, and one way to 2 ways, like 2 hours, over 2 hours, and and their parents worked in the coastal cities. And well, what can I say is I think it's a big deal. I think it's a huge responsibility for their their grandparents, and also for for the country to help them, right? To implement policies to give the local governments pressure and to help them,
Right.
to ensure they have the education, at least the compulsory education, at least the high school education, and then they can go to like a tech, study some skills to work as a chef, or maybe work as like in the construction side, and they can just help themselves.
Because that's a thing that I thought was also very interesting. There's something, I guess, it's not the term that they use here, but in the West, I guess people won't understand the term affirmative action, but they are sort of, what was it, they called it preferential provisions for students and pupils from rural areas who go to university to give them a little bit of preference, so that they are really get to go into to higher level education where maybe they already have been disadvantaged before, so they get a little bit of a preferential treatment maybe over certain other students, which I thought was very interesting. It's another way also of trying to even the score and making sure that everybody has a fair education.
Fair
like
and high quality education. That's the topic of today's press conference, I think.
Yeah, and there's a lot of attention.
Get ready, and I don't know how many questions the spokesman will answer, but certainly they will probably one or two tough questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of things that I think China is working on and has been working on over the last few years, like you said, but it's a huge country. There's a lot of things to do, and a lot of different issues, like we just said, issues that affect just the cities, issues that affect just the rural areas, issues that affect western regions, eastern regions, like all over the place. So it's very diverse. There's a lot of issues to tackle, and like you said, it's also a big responsibility for the state. And I think every country is very concerned with education because, like you said, it's the future.
I think Mr. Chen Baosheng is coming on the stage. So CGTN viewers, so I will see you probably after an hour.
Yes, we're going to sign off for now. Thanks, bye.
All right.
各个角度都看看吧啊！好嘞，好，好，哎，好嘞，这，好嘞，好了啊。
好，请这个摄影记者回到原来座位上。各位记者朋友，大家上午好，欢迎参加13届全国人大1次会议记者会。本场记者会的主题
Dear
是
friends from the media,
努力
Good
让
morning.
每个孩子
welcome to the press conference of the first session of the 13th National People's Congress. Today's topic is we'll strive to provide equal access to all children for education. Today with us is the Education Minister, Mr. Chen Baosheng.
首先感谢大家对我国教育事业的关心和支持。
Good morning,
党的19大呀，
journalist friends.
对新时代
And first of all, I'd like to thank you for your attention to our education industry.
现在摆在
During the 19th
全体教育工作者面前，
During the 19th CPPCC, the central government attaches great importance to education, and there are now two tough issues facing us. The first one is we need to accelerate the modernization of education. We have to improve our education quality and satisfy all people. So these
解决好教育
requires efforts from
面
everyone.
临的
The second issue
不充分解决好，
is how to solve
让每一个孩子都能
the imbalance
优质
issue in education. So make sure that all children are entitled to quality and equal education. So this is actually a very urgent need for all people. In this new era, we need to solve these two issues. So today, I would like to answer questions and hopefully give you
第三排，
a
举手这位
satisfactory
站尼尔
answer.
男记者。
谢谢主持人，谢谢陈部长。你好，我是光明日报融媒体的记者。总理在政府工作报告中指出，要抓紧消除城镇大班额。教育部也明确，今年要基本消除66人以上超大班额，2020年要基本消除大班额。请问陈部长，要实现这一目标，有哪些具体举措？
光明 Daily. In the report on the work of the government, Premier Li emphasized that we need to move faster to put an end to big class sizes in urban schools. The Ministry of Education has also made it clear that this year it will basically bring class sizes below 66 pupils, and in 2020 basically end the practice of big class sizes altogether. Minister Chen, what are the specific measures that will take us to this goal?
谢谢您提这个问题啊。这个大班额问题啊，不是简单的一个教室里
Thank you for the
面
question.
放多少桌子、多少条板。
Bigger class size issue is not just about the numbers of students in one classroom or how many chairs and desks we have for a classroom. Big class size causes three dangers. First, it will affect the mental and physical health of students. Just think about it. When there are too many people in one classroom, no one's happy. And it also affects the quality of teaching. Students sitting behind have trouble seeing the blackboard clearly or have problems hearing the teacher clearly. And thirdly, it will cause some safety issues. Therefore, we have to overcome this challenge and put an end to big class size practice. In 2017, in this regard, we have made many breakthroughs. And now I'd like to list some statistics. There are two types of big class size. One is ultra big, class above 66 people, and the second is smaller, above 56, between 56 to 66 people. In 2017, we have 368,000 big class size classes, so counts for 17% of the total classrooms. So over the past year, we reduced 80,000 big class size. So this is a very big drop. For ultra big class, we have about 86,000 of them, counting for 2.24% of the total classes. And last year we cut down it by 56,000. Also, this is a huge drop, almost 40% drop. So last year, in this regard, we had made some great strides. In facing this issue, the Education Ministry has always paid great attention to it. So every year, things are improving. So our goal is, by the end of this year, we need to basically eliminate class bigger than 66 people. So we have to eliminate those 2.24 ultra big size class. And next year, we have to also make decisive move to eliminate class size between 56 to 66 by 2020. So basically, we have to solve this 10.1% issue, that is 83,000 big size classroom. So we have to solve this issue by planning, coordination, regulation. By coordination, I mean we need to coordinate the education in urban and rural area. We have to think about the weakness in rural area and advantage in urban area to increase the places available in the school. So we have to make sure in every residential area there is a school planned in place. So if there is insufficient education resources in some residential area, we have to make it up and to make the planning of school into new residential areas. In rural area, we have to provide dormitories for private schools to make sure the enrollment is stable in certain areas. By regulation, we need to regulate and standardize the enrollment system and also the schedule of students. In middle and high school, we have to accelerate reform of accepting enrolled students from neighborhoods and to allocate resources in a more scientific way. For regular schools, quality need to be improved, and also the enrollment needs to be improved. So both quality and source of students need to be guaranteed. Provincial, municipal governments need to plan accordingly and to make sure that we can eliminate ultra big size classes. So we have to make sure we can achieve this 2020 goal. This is oversight. So by planning, oversight, supervision, we need to follow the implementation of all those plans and policies to make sure that we are on track to achieve our target. So we've learned a lot over the years. The lady in white suit on fourth row.
亚洲大学排行榜中，中国有101所大学上榜，请问教育部对此怎么看？在提升高等教育质量、推进内涵式发展方面，有哪些关键举措？此外，请您介绍一下教育部对于在内地读书的香港学生提供了哪些便利措施和优惠政策？谢谢。
Hong Kong Bohemia Magazine. The Times Asia University Rankings 2018 were published in early February, and 101 Chinese universities made it to the list. What is the ministry's comment on this? What measures will be taken to improve the quality and bring out the full potential of higher education? Also, could you tell us what preferential policies and facilitations have been offered by the ministry to Hong Kong students who are studying in the mainland?
好，谢谢您啊，您这是一题三问，关于大学排名问题。
Thank you for your question. Your question basically has 3 parts about university ranking. I have 3 things to tell you. First, over the past decade, universities in China rankings have been going up. This means the quality of our college education started to join the ranks of the world. So the priority is now confirmed. And second thing is now 101 Chinese university has made the list in 2017, including some universities in Macau and Hong Kong. This shows our development of the post-secondary education has also been improving. So our core competitiveness is strengthening. And third thing is about those rankings, comparison. You can take reference of them. Feel free to read it, to follow it, but don't let it get in the way of your own opinion. It's only one aspect of measuring the quality of university education. Overall speaking, we need to have confidence in ourselves. So that's my take on rankings. We need to respect the rankings, but do not believe in those rankings 100%. We have to believe in yourself in building world-class high post-secondary education systems. So that's my answer to your questions about post-secondary education in China. So we have to focus on merit, focus on capability of students.
Because our schools are the sources for future talents. We're providing the good talents for future development. Our talent nurturing capability is a core competence of our schools. This is indeed what we really need to focus on. Number 2, we have to be creative in education models, which to satisfy the needs of our society. In this era, we have a lot of theories. It's information age. It's a globalization age. It is a technology reform age. AI is one prominent technology which attracts a lot of attention from the society, which requires that we really need to be creative to reform our education model. By doing so, we can provide those talents who can shoulder the great responsibility of revitalizing our country. Number 3, we have to prioritize the structures. We need to actually readjust the disciplinary rations, and also that our higher education can actually fulfill the needs of our society. To provide the future talents, we need to focus on the future. We need to provide services for the market. We really need to know what the market needs. We need to follow the market, adapt to the market and focus on the future. In that way, we can optimize our own structure. The last thing, we need to reform our system. By reforming our system, we can provide the talent for the future. This is a mechanism guarantee. This might be a long story, but in short, I think reform is a basis for future development. Reform needs motivation. This is something we really need to work on. Thank you.
这个中间靠后，穿红衣服的那位戴眼镜的女士，好。
我是未来网记者，我想请问陈部长，近期教育部4部门印发了关于切实减轻中小学生课外负担、开展校外培训机构专项治理行动的通知，引发社会的广泛关注。我们了解，国家层面我们已经先后发布了多个减负令，但感觉孩子负担不减反增。请问陈部长怎么看待这个问题？怎样才能真正为我们的孩子减负？谢谢。
K618.com. Minister Chen, recently, the Ministry of Education and 3 other agencies issued a notice on after-school training to address the problem of heavy extracurricular burdens on primary and secondary school students, which caught a lot of attention across society. Despite several rounds of burden reduction efforts nationwide, we feel the burdens on our children are actually on the rise. What is your view on this, Minister Chen? How can we truly lighten the burdens for our kids?
减负问题啊，这一次两会啊，引起了各方面的浓厚兴趣和高度关注。可以说热词。
Burden reduction is indeed a big topic during our session, which attracts attention from all sides. This is a hot topic. It's not only a hot topic, but for a long time, people have been attached great importance to it. It's been a focal point of the society to reduce the burden of our students. In the past few years, we've seen great progress, and we've seen some effect. However, this issue has been bugging us for many years. There are many reasons for that. Everyone knows, in general, why the burden has been reduced. Because we all know who is adding the burden to our children. I'm sure every parent, every teacher knows fully about that. But here I would like to clarify some definition. What is a burden? What we are calling burden is to reduce the academic burden of our students. Those burden are actually going against the mental and physical development of our student, which exceed the scope of education that is regulated in our school discipline. Within this range, we call them academic discipline. This is something we really need to work on for our student that is necessary burden for them. So we need to tell the difference between the necessary burden and the extra burden. A lot of people are talking about burdens, but they might have different definitions. What we need to reduce is the unnecessary burden, the extra burden. So next step, following what we really believe in, we should push forward our burden reduction program. I believe for burden reduction, it is not only an issue in education industry. It is an issue associated with all parts of society. It is not only an education issue, it is a social issue. We require the effort, concerted effort from the society. Burden reduction, from what aspects can we do so? I think there are several aspects. Number one, from the schools. Reduce the burden of the teachers, of the teaching responsibilities. And I've seen great progress in this aspect. school burden reduction. However, we're seeing the burden rising up after school. This is reflecting what is actually happening in reality, but there's some kind of a difference between the reality and what we're saying, because the burden reduction is associated with many aspects. We're simplifying the measures we're taking, and the effect of which should be re-evaluated. For school burden reduction, we need to have a well thought out plan for school education, which should be implemented in all rounds of school education as a priority for all schools. This is one thing we can do. Number 2, after school burden reduction, which means to regulate the after school training programs, training facilities. Those training facilities are important link or important component of an overall education system. However, we need to regulate those who are breaking the rules of breaking the whole education system. Those who are uncertified, this is something we really need to tackle. There's a great burden on us to regulate these training facilities. The students hate these training facilities. The parents don't know what to do, but the training facilities are making great money out of it. Number 3, the exam evaluation burden reduction. We need to change the way we evaluate students' academic performance to actually optimize how we evaluate the all-round capability of a student. The all-round examination or review system we do not allow the ranking of a student based on academic exams. We do not allow playing up those students who get the top scores in college entrance exams. This is how we reform the college entrance exam, the whole education system. Number 4, teachers' responsibility burden reduction, the teaching responsibility, according to our education outline, to provide sufficient classes and education under this outline. It's not that we teach less in class, but teach more after class and actually encourage students to participate in after-school classes. So we really need to reduce the burden of those teachers. And the last aspect is to reduce the burden of those parents. We need to fully understand what it means to have a good education, what is true success. By doing so, we will understand our programs and burden reduction will be based on a sound plan. And in recent years, we fully understand, we see a lot of advertisements of those training facilities, those success stories. But what are the results coming out of that? We see a lot of money coming out of parents' pocket and burden rising up for students, and also the quality of school education actually is reduced. So that is why I'm saying those that go against the physical and mental development of children are actually going viral in the society. People are buying that. Which brings a lot of pressure, anxiety to our parents. It is creating anxiety for parents, creating burden for students. And this is something we do not allow, we will not like to see. That is why We really need to further the understanding of all aspects of the society, like the success theories, success stories, the training facilities. They're actually flaunting what they have achieved in academic exams. This is actually not something that people should buy in or believe in. Once you actually believe in those success stories, and you actually believe this is what is the true recipe for success, if you don't listen to the advice, but you listen to those fawning stories, the burden will be added to all members of the society, which creates anxiety for all. This is something we really need to change. We need to improve our understanding of education instead of those fake success stories. We need to do it according to how we actually nurture our students in a healthy way. This is something we really should follow. In these 5 aspects, we can substantially reduce the burden of our students. We need to cut down the link between our teachers and training facilities. In terms of the link in teaching and education, the link should be cut off. The training facility can provide different programs. However, they should not provide classes that extend beyond what teachers or what students should actually learn at this age. We should cut down the link between these two. Number 2, we should cut down the link between those exams or the results of the competition exams and the recruitment system. The public schools cannot fight for student sources or compete for student sources. By doing so, we can reduce the burden gradually. I believe in the future we will build up an education system with sound order, with good ecosystem. Extra academic burden will be gradually reduced. I would like to call on all member society to really be committed to this issue. We see burden on the students as well as burden on our teachers. So many evaluations, competitions, tests. This is actually making the teachers feeling really stressful. We really need to put the time back to our teachers. Schools should say no to all kinds of applications, competitions for our teachers. All kinds of paperwork for our teachers. This is actual work for our teachers. This is what we call those extra paperwork that we should say no for all the schools. So teachers should have abundant time to go deeper into their curriculum, their lessons. They have ample time to actually fully prepared for classes. Thank you.
好，谢谢主持人，谢谢陈部长。我是中国网记者。我们知道去年以来，很多高校的思政课有了很大的变化，吸引力也明显增强。那么想问陈部长，您是怎么看待这些变化的？除了思政课以外，我们还将在哪些方面加强高校思政工作？谢谢。
China.com.cn. We've noticed that since last year, many universities have introduced changes to their ideological and political studies courses, making them much more attractive. How do you see these changes? Apart from these courses, what else will be done to promote ideological and political work in universities?
谢谢啊。2016年12月，党中央召开了高校思想政治工作会议。
In 2017, actually in December 2016, the Conference on Ideology and Political Courses was convened, where President Xi gave an important remark. Through 1 year of implementation, we gradually realized that this conference is a landmark event. And the remark has important guiding effect on our work. And we need to improve the ideological and political education in colleges. We have to improve the quality of the education in 5 aspects. There's so many battles to fight: mindset, textbook, teaching methods, mechanisms. So there are 5 battles to fight in improving quality of the education. So through 1 year's efforts, the courses have been overhauled. We gathered 200 experts, and we did a survey in 2,500 universities and observed 3,000 classes. And we organized observing classes for all the experts. So in total, we have observed 30,000 classes. Now all universities and colleges are included in the survey and observation. So this is the first large-scale nationwide reform on ideological and political courses. In this survey, 30 students received questionnaires. 82.3% of students and experts believe the quality of those courses have been improved. And many students think they're inspired by the courses. And 78% of the students like their teachers. So among the 3,000 courses, the average rating is above 80. In some universities, students have to go on waiting list for enrollment to those courses. Some of those courses went online and were well received by netizens. So through this year's effort, all those courses were overhauled. But we know this is just the beginning. There's a lot of work to be done. So what's next? I think that first of all, we have to correct our mindset. We cannot separate the mandatory curriculum and selective ideological and political courses. We cannot teach those courses in a vacuum. We have to make sure those ideological and political courses are a part of the university education. So it should be an integral part of all of our curriculums. So in 2018, we have a few things to do. First of all, we need a plan. A plan of cultivating backup talents and teachers for ideological and political courses. Make sure that we have enough teachers, new teachers joining our team. So, first of all, we need a plan in place. Secondly, we need a conference. We need to provide a conference for students to learn the Xi Jinping thought on socialism with Chinese characteristics in the new era. Thirdly, we need trainings for all of those teachers. Fourth, we need a very well-prepared team for those courses in universities and online. Fifth, we need R&D center for new content and also for teachers training. And we also need to implement some pilot projects in rural areas. And lastly, we need to learn some lessons from our past practices, and we need to select some of the best curriculums and teachers. So that's our tasks in 2018. That's how we fight the battles. And this battle will not end in 1 year. We need to continue this effort and to improve the quality of those courses.
谢谢主持人，我是南方家南方都市报记者。今年政府工作报告提出要加快双一流建设，请问是否会把资源过多的向双一流高校倾斜？对于缩小区域差距，加快中西部高等教育发展有何安排？谢谢。
Southern Metropolis. This year's government work report called for faster actions to develop world-class universities and world-class disciplines. Will it result in excessive resources channeled to these universities? What will be done to speed up the development of higher education in central and western regions and narrow the regional gap?
谢谢。双一流建设需要建设世界一流大学、一流学科，这是它的主要内容。这是党中央、国务院确定的一项。
Construction of world-class university and curriculum is a priority proposed by the Central Party Committee. This is also a necessary step to improve the rankings of universities. Last year, we released the list of the potential world-class universities and disciplines, which gained some tractions. In general, we met our targets, and right now, things are looking good. After the release of the list, some questions were asked. For example, should we really concentrate our resources to those universities on the list? What about the universities located in the central and western section of China? This is one of the questions asked, among many others. To build world-class university and discipline is not an action to solve this imbalance issue. So we actually allocate more resources in some key universities and try to build some world-class universities, increase the numbers of world-class universities in China. So this is not things unique to China, but actually a common policies in the world. For example, in UK, Germany, Korea, Russia, France, similar policies are very common in those countries. And secondly, the plan is open, dynamic, and consistent. We need to make some breakthroughs to improve the mobilities. This is actually a window for new development to the universities in central and western section of China, to encourage universities to step up and join the list. Now they provide a channel for uplifting. And thirdly, as for resource allocation, we need to improve both the depth and width of our resources education. Now we have invested a little bit more than 1 trillion RMB on higher education. Within this budget, a little bit over 2% was given to the construction of these world-class universities. This will not take more resources from those central and western universities. And we actually have dedicated resources and policies for those universities. We have projects to improve the capacity of those universities and also have some supportive projects for them. We also have policies to build universities between the ministries and the provincial governments. In certain provinces and autonomous regions, they do not have high world-class universities. So we combine the efforts of the ministries and those municipalities, provinces, autonomous regions. We sit down together and discuss how can we build upon the previous policy. And we made policies of joining efforts between Ministry of Education and provinces. Also, 13 provinces plus 1 army production corporation. So provincial governments, autonomous regions, and army production corps will continue to support universities. Through joint efforts, those 14 universities will be supported, and in the near future, they will spearhead development of higher education in the region. So this is the policy of combining efforts between Ministry of Education and the provincial governments. So building world-class universities will only be in the interest of the western and central sections of China. So it's actually in the benefit of all universities. It will not take resources from them.
So such concerns can be eased. Thank you.
第6排这个
Please continue.
穿蓝衣服的短发的这位女记者。
6th row on your right.
短发的穿蓝衣服的6排
Lady with the short hair.
好。
谢谢主持人，我是中国新闻社的记者。最近几年，
Short
大家对
hair
于托幼
in
服
blue
务和
suit.
学前教育非常的关注，像有这个社会的专家智库也提出了很多的意见。咱们政府工作报告也明确提出，要加强对于托幼服务的全程监管，并且要加大这个学前教育资源的供给。请问一下，咱们在这方面有没有什么具体的举措，以及学前教育的立法工作现在进展如何了？谢谢。
China News Service. Childcare services and preschool education have drawn a lot of attention across the country. Some think tanks and experts have put forth suggestions in this. Our Premier also mentioned in the government work report that we need to increase the supply of preschool educational resources through multiple channels and strengthen oversight over the whole process of childcare provision. What specific measures are being considered by the ministry in this regard? Also, what progress has been made with the legislation on preschool education?
这个学前教育啊，是新时期中国教育
Preschool education is indeed a big issue, our fastest growing component of the current education system, is also a big challenge for the current education system. From all aspects of the society, we're fully committed to preschool education. I would like to clarify one definition. The preschool education refers to the education for 3 to 6-year-olds. This is what we usually call the kindergarten education. This is precisely the definition of preschool education. We're highly committed to this issue, especially young parents. This is also becoming the biggest concern in their daily life. That is why our ministry, according to the overall planning of our state council, we also are committed to this issue. Just recently, we have organized a large-scale research and survey. We're connecting with or interacting with agencies of the State Council, covering more than a dozen provinces and areas to actually know what's happening on the ground. We organize a group of researchers and experts to conduct research projects. And also we invite embassy staff to provide feedback on their preschool education in their respective countries, actually conducting surveys in their countries regarding the preschool education. So we're analyzing the results coming from the 3 channels. We're actually writing reports on these subjects, working together with relevant agencies to design a future planning on this issue. In this process, our confidence is beefing up. We are greatly encouraged by the result we're seeing. I can just simply or give you some simple examples. After this research and survey, what we're feeling is that after the 18th CPC, China's preschool education has seen historical strides, big achievements, and also facing daunting tasks. What are the specific examples? Number 1, our service capability in this industry has been greatly improved. We have the largest scale preschool education in the world. In 2017, total number of students in preschool education system 46 million. This is a country with a medium population. This is a huge number. Number 2, the accessibility as well as the development of the preschool education has seen great improvements. In 2017, the number of students who are enrolled in kindergartens is about 9.6%. The State Council has approved a 10-year development plan for preschool education. In this outline, we pointed out by 2020 this rate should be improved to 80%. In 2017 is about 79.6%. We're almost there. At this level, what does that mean? Simply by analyzing this enrollment rate, this is on par with a country with upper and medium income level. At this rate, compared to 5 years ago, we've seen a growth of 15 percentage points. That was number 2. Number 3, resources putting in this area have greatly surged. We haven't seen the actual numbers in 2017 yet, but in 2016, our resources put in this industry is about 270 billion yuan. Our investment in education, our fiscal investment, is about 130 billion yuan. The overall investment annual growth is about 16.9%. I'm talking about the 280 billion yuan. The fiscal investment, we've seen a 77% growth over the past 5 years in terms of fiscal investment in education. Number 4, and we're restructuring preschool education system in China. Since 2017, from the beginning of 2016, well, I'm going back to 2010. Since 2010, we have implemented 2 preschool education action plans from last year, marked the beginning of the 3rd action plan. In the previous 2 action plans, in the past 5 or 6 years, what does that mean? What have we seen? In our kindergartens, we have about 255,000 kindergartens in general. And we have 160,000 private kindergartens. This is the number we're seeing. It's on a huge scale. Why am I saying we're restructuring the education system? In the process of the reform, the education system was dominated by public kindergartens, those organized by different agencies, but these were slowly eliminated. Those numbers are actually being reduced from 140,000 to 40,000. At the beginning of those action plans, we saw a small number of private kindergartens, but in a short time frame, we're seeing a big surge in the private kindergartens. That is why I am saying this is historical changes, historical achievements. However, in terms of the development, we're also facing daunting tasks and challenges because China has a huge population and there's inequitable resource allocation in preschool education. This is reflecting the big changes in the demand and supply of this industry, as well as our changes in our preschool education behaviors in different families. This is instrumental for the education industry. We understand there are some issues that are not fully resolved. I just talked about the 79.6% of enrollment rate of the kindergarten. We've seen great improvement. However, there is still unresolved issues. We need to focus on those unresolved issues, but also keep improving what we have achieved, because all the parents want their children to go to a high-quality kindergarten that is cheap, high quality, and also close to home. Close to home, high quality, and also economic. These are the three requirements from our parents. But what we are seeing now, among all those kindergartens, the inclusive kindergarten is also still lacking in our education system. This is a big challenge. Our fiscal investment and also the cost sharing structure is not well established yet. This is a big issue. And also those training staff, education staff still need higher education or higher quality training in the process of teaching and education. There's a lack of focus on regulation, oversight, and safety regulation. Most importantly, how we perceive preschool education. We need to further our understanding of preschool education. We need to change how we perceive it. These are the big issues in the next phase. So starting from this year, we will continue with some measures to improve preschool education. The first thing is to roll out our third action plan. This is the second year of the third action plan. We need to put this on the ground to determine our goals for the action plan. By 2020, we need to increase the numbers of the inclusive kindergarten, increasing the rate to 80%, the enrollment rate above 85%. These are the two goals very specific in our action plan.
Secondly, build upon the previous survey, we need to strengthen the overarching design and come up with a policy that fits our current situation and also meet the demand of preschool education. This is what we are doing now. Thirdly, we need to continue to strengthen the oversight, especially oversight to registered kindergartens, to guide and lead kindergartens of all levels to improve their quality and to meet the rising demand. Fourth, the safety issue. Safety concern of kindergarten is different from the safety issues of primary school or middle school. Concerning all aspects of kindergarten age students. We have to guarantee the safety of those children in all aspects. Have to step up on safety measures. Make sure the children can develop and learn in kindergarten safely and happily. Fifth, we need to prevent turning kindergartens into primary schools. Because many kindergarten teachers were previously working in primary schools, so they're using the same teaching methods to kindergarten children. And some parents want their children to accept primary school education earlier. So that has pushed kindergartens to actually change their way of teaching. They're giving up games and more entertaining way of teaching and switch to primary school style teaching. The current enrolled number of students in kindergartens is 46 million. We have to take reference of domestic and international experience and to set the requirement for the ratio between teachers, staff to students to make sure it's around teacher to student ratio is around 15:1, and make sure that every classroom has 1 teacher and 2 staffs. Now we have around 2.2 million kindergarten teachers, and we have 46 million kindergarten students. So the gap is 710,000. And also the gap for nursing staff is 6 million. So by 2020, we will have 4.31 million students ready for enrollment to kindergartens. So, according to this number, the gap for teacher is 290 teachers, and the gap for staff is 110,000. So in total, we need additional 1 million teachers and 900,000 staffs. In total, 1.9 million. This is a very big challenge. So training teachers and staffs is essential. And I have to emphasize one thing. We have to work hard to improve the treatment of teachers and staff. Many kindergartens, especially the private ones, pay their staff and teachers poorly. It's very common for those teachers to receive a monthly salary of 1,000, 2,000, and it will be impossible for them to feel stable and safe. And so high quality talents will never go into this occupation. And the last measure is through legislation. Legislation on preschool education. So we are working very hard to draft the new laws on preschool education. From preschool to post-secondary, we need a law for each stage of the student. Of course, we need to go through some legislative procedure. There's a certain life cycle for a law to be made. It takes time for a draft law to mature and to be passed. So that's the issues facing preschool education and the measures we've taken.
我是新华社记者。党的10.9大报告提出要深化产教融合、校企合作。那么去年底，国办也出台了相关文件，提出了30条具体的政策。那么我想问一下，目前这些政策的推进情况如何？下一步还会在哪些地方重点发力解决这些问题？谢谢。
Xinhua News Agency. The 19th CPC National Congress report called for integration between industry and education and cooperation between enterprises and colleges. The State Council General Office also issued a document about this in the end of 2017. So my question is, how are things now with these policies and what are the priorities going forward?
职业教育的发展，在中国呢，高等教育发展史上，
Development of occupational education actually, in the history of our education industry, higher education started very early. We had many occupational schools in history, and the earliest ones were started by foreigners. But for various reasons, the high expectation of parents, among other reasons, hindered the development of occupational education. The 19th CPC National Congress made policies and documents around the integration between industry and corporation. And as for the implementation of the document, we did 3 things. First is to implement the policy. We issued the guidance on the development of talents in manufacturing. In order to implement this new policy, we make sure that all sectors, all provinces are covered by this policy. And starting from manufacturing industry, we will later expand to other sectors. We chose 340 pilot areas to test the water. So we need to first make sure to select a few good examples, good practices to lead by example. We have to combine the trend of demands and the settings of disciplines in universities. So occupation education is different from higher education. We have to make sure the balance and balance between supply and demand. And second measure we took is to build a platform. Three platforms were built. First is the week of occupational education to provide a place for discussion and exchanges. The second platform is a dialogue between industry and occupational education. So this is a platform for conversation. So make sure the education sector and the industries are in contact. The third is a occupational contest. So is an annual contest to provide a good environment for competition. Furthermore, focus on quality. The sticking issue for occupational education is lack of quality. We have to first solve the demonstration, innovation issues in integration. We have built more than 1,400 groups for occupational education, inviting 3,000 companies. We also built more than 360 centers for this integration. We also built more than 1,440 offices together with the enterprise. So make sure that the students have place to intern. So we selected 163 companies for the pilot project. And after years of implementation, we had evaluation. And then we selected the second batch of companies, which are 203. Now, we have 366 companies joining our efforts. So all those efforts aim to solve the lack of teachers and talents. So between school and students, between school and industry, we want to build a channel to make sure we have enough supply of talents and we have enough innovation centers to carry out the plan fully in pushing forward integration between industry and occupational education. In this process, we need to clarify two things. First is coordination between the industry and the education sector. And also, teaching should be at the center of the policy, and there should be enough cooperation between the companies and the schools.
So the education institute should be the core, and the businesses should be the foundation. Schools should be established in the center of those industrial zones. Those majors should focus on the industrial or the supply chain. That is how we can further integrate the collaboration between these two sectors. Thank you.
对。
陈部长好，我是中国青年报中青在线的记者。从2014年启动考试招生制度改革以来，上海、浙江去年率先实行了新高考。请问陈部长，试点成果如何？还存在哪些问题？下一步推进高考改革还有什么新动作？谢谢。
China News Daily. The reform on the examination and enrollment systems was launched in 2014. Shanghai and Zhejiang piloted the new college entrance examination last year. What are the results of their pilot programs and what are the problems? What new moves will be taken to advance the reform?
高考招生制度改革是一个牵一发动全身的改革。
The reform on the enrollment system is indeed a very important issue that is highly associated with all members of society. It is the leading reform in our system. Last year, in Shanghai and Zhejiang, we've seen reform and the implementation of such reform, great success coming from the reform, which is a great exemplary model for other provinces. Talking about the achievement, I think it should be reflected in the following aspects. Number one, it is leading the reform in high school education. This is highly important because the reform of college entrance exam is a baton. The reform of the baton means reform of high school education should be following suit. That is why from Shanghai and Zhejiang, they are actually applying a system in which students can pick classes, disciplines, which is different from the typical model where students are usually grouped in a set classes. This is actually playing up how students can pick classes they're interested in. Number two, we are speeding up the development of all-round education. After the reform in high school education, how we examine or how we review the performance of the students, we actually add a category of evaluating the performance in all-round education. This is indeed a very important component in a higher quality education. In Shanghai, about 80% of the schools have established labs and relevant measures. They have established more than 1,800 trial experiment centers in which social members or from all walks of life can participate in. This is a very important part of all-round education. And we're also facilitating the reform of our exams. In the past, all exams are set, but here this is a more mobile combination of what kinds of exams you can take. And number four, this is also a new challenge for higher education institutes. How can we keep reforming our recruitment system? How can we adapt to the result of the reform in high school education? So the tertiary institute should also adapt to such changes. These are the outcomes I'm seeing from the reform. In the trial programs, we also saw problems. For example, when students choose classes they're interested in, the scope of such options should be discussed. We can have a quantitative analysis of such. If you choose too many classes, there's a pressure on the student for choosing appropriate classes, increasing the difficulty. It's like driving a car. If you're driving to a parking lot, if there's only a parking spot, people are fighting for the spot. But when there are many spots, you don't know which one to pick. You have to think about it before you make a decision. There's a rising cost of making a decision. And also, the difficulty of the classes you're picking. How do we design such classes? For example, simple classes. Of course, more people will go for it. Those more difficult classes, for example, in a short time frame, might see a decrease of students who want to go for it. But those more difficult courses are the very fundamentally important disciplines for basic education. This is something we should strengthen. In this system, how do we better organize the students while they can pick and choose classes? This is increasing the workload of our teachers. How do we optimize the workload for teachers? And how do we better regulate schools? These are challenging issues we're facing. In the trial programs in Zhejiang and Shanghai, they are slowly improving the recruitment system. Last year, in Beijing, Tianjin, Shandong, and Hainan, these 4 provinces and areas, we initiate the college enrollment reform. They have learned from the lessons of Shanghai, and Zhejiang actually take notice of the problems these 2 provinces are facing. Ministry of Education is also working with these 4 provinces and areas to improve their reform programs. And we're also actually making great effort in solving these issues. And also starting from this year, another 17 provinces will launch their respective reform. For these provinces, we're evaluating the performance, but we want to be practical in these reforms. We do not be hasty in increasing numbers of these provinces. If you meet the requirement, you can start. If not, we should work harder for it, because quality is of the utmost importance. It should be result and quality oriented. We want to make sure the success of such reform. From what we are seeing now from these trial programs, these is reflecting the great success, the effectiveness of those trial programs. Thank you.
戴眼镜的女士。
谢谢主持人，我是俄罗斯金砖电视台阿尔法电视台的记者。去年
Lady on the 3rd row with glasses.
深圳北理莫斯科大学举行开学典礼，习近平总书记还发了贺信。我们注意到，包括北理莫斯科大学已经成立了多所中外合作办学大学。陈部长，能否请你介绍下一步中外合作办学工作的考虑？谢谢。
Russian BRICS TV, Alpha TV. The Shenzhen MSU BIT University held its inauguration last year. General Secretary Xi Jinping sent a congratulatory message to the ceremony. This university is one example of many Sino-foreign joint venture universities. Minister Chen, could you tell us what are the future plans for such cooperation?
这个深圳北理莫斯科大学是2国元首确立批准的一个教育合作项目。
The university in Shenzhen is an institute approved by the leaders of both countries. Last year, the opening ceremony was launched, and President Xi sent a congratulatory message. So President Putin sent a congratulatory message. This is a new practice, a new outcome from the 2 countries. We're seeing great performance from this university, and the collaboration is going smoothly. The Chinese government and the Ministry of Education is committed to the Sino-foreign joint venture institutes. Since the past 40 years of reform and opening up, the education industry is slowly strengthening while slowly opening up to the whole world. Our strategy has always been that we inviting guests coming in and also going out. We like to learn from those leading education institutes from all over the world. But we are putting our feet on the ground in China, establishing institutes with Chinese characteristics. So based on this mindset, we're working with other foreign institutes and established this Sino-foreign joint ventures. With the approval of the ministry, we have established more than 2,400 training facilities, in which 1,300 institutes provide bachelor's degree and above. Our goal is, through this collaboration, we can learn from others and also work on our challenges, which will be mutually beneficial. So, Chinese children can enjoy high-quality education in China, enjoy the benefits and good classes that are offered in foreign countries. So our foreign partners can also work in the joint ventures in China, can work with Chinese partners and learn from each other, and also to better understand the Chinese culture. We can work on the talents that will be essential for future development for both countries. This will be a mutually beneficial program for both countries. We're inviting these people in, but in terms of going out, we're also accelerating our development. In foreign countries, we're also establishing these joint venture education institutes, and we're seeing great results. Next step, we're taking actions to accelerate such development. Thank you.
好，请他提问。
谢谢主持人。我是来自成都电视台的记者。我想问的是陈部长，陈部长您好。那截止到2016年的时候，全国共有各级各类学校的专任老师是1578人次。那面对这个解决增量这个问题，下一步我们将如何解决好制约师范教育发展的问题？从哪些方面发力培养新时代的新型教师人才？谢谢。
From Chengdu TV, Minister, could you tell us what are the plans to develop the normal university education and how to cultivate more better teachers for the future?
师范教育非常重要，教育这个行业是
Normal universities is of utmost importance. Education is industry for the future, because the talents we are building right now are for the future. So the sector is industry built for the future. There's so much uncertainty in the future. Therefore, we have to make sure the teachers are qualified. In terms of the total number of teachers, we need to have sufficient numbers of teachers getting prepared for the mission of revitalizing the Chinese nation. And the existing teachers need to continue to learn on the job and to improve their capabilities. And also we have to be ready to cultivate enough teachers for the future. And the main force for this endeavor is our normal universities. That's why we are drafting the action plan for revitalizing the teaching forces. So we have to build upon the previous success and to strengthen the overarching design and to clarify our goals. First of all, we have to make sure the existing normal universities are doing their part and playing their role. In terms of resource allocation, we need to provide preferential treatment to normal universities. We need to allow and even encourage other types of universities to establish disciplines and courses for teaching. To further complement the sources of teachers. So this is about the regular universities. Thirdly, we need to come up with standards for the normal universities' disciplines. Universities need to have certain qualification to open such courses. Now, some measures are already in place and we'll follow up with new policies. We have to cultivate our teachers according to the standards to ensure the quality and level of normal university teaching. Fourthly, we have to also improve the morality education of teachers at normal universities. The ethic codes of teachers is the basis. Teaching is not just about the knowledge, but also about values. So morality plays a very important role in the development of students and in the future of our nation. Thank you. Due to time limit, this is the end of our press conference. Thank you, Minister Chen, and thank you for listening.